Welcome to the Master Passive Income Podcast, where we talk about investing in real estate rental properties with a special focus on making enough money so you can quit your job and live the dream life. And now, here is your host, Dustin Heiner.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Master Passive Income Show. My name is Dustin Heiner, and I am here to help you learn how to quit that JOB, that just over broke job, by investing in real estate rental properties so you never, ever have to work a job again. Now, today, I am super excited to actually talk to you about retirement accounts, and I'm not actually ever excited about talking to you about retirement accounts. Now, what I'm going to tell you is what I did, but then I am also bringing on an expert who actually has done this many, many times over, saving many, many people so much money in taxes. And this expert is actually going to show us how to do things better than like a solo 401k or a self-directed IRA. Now, what I actually did, I literally cashed out every single penny out of my 401k and IRA. I literally cashed all of that out and put that into real estate. Now, I make so much more money from the real estate than I ever made in the retirement accounts. Now, I actually did write an entire article on why you should never put your money in a 401k and an IRA, how it's a scam, how it's actually really, really bad for you. Now, there is a good thing when you have an employer that actually puts money into it, like matches your amount of money. But honestly, if you invested your own money, if you bought one rental property with one of the a little bit of money that you have inside your 401k, or just use a little bit to buy a property, you're going to make $250 a month in passive income. I personally show students how to buy properties. They become coaching students, and I show them how to buy one property that makes them $250 or more. Now, imagine if you spent $20,000 on a 401k or an IRA, or you had $20,000 in there, would that $20,000 actually make you $250 a month in passive income? In my opinion, no. I don't see any way that you could turn $20,000 in stock market or 401k or anything like that into passive income of $250 or more. It's almost impossible. I don't know of any other way. What's interesting is if you want to not do what I did, which is literally cash everything out, because people worry about fees and the expenses, not expenses, but like the taxes and things like that, which there are those, but I'm bringing on an expert who is actually going to show you how to utilize your own retirement account and actually not have to pay taxes. It's actually phenomenal. So if you want to keep your money inside of a retirement account and not get those fees, this is an amazing option. My mind was blown going through this interview. So I'm super excited to share with you everything we're going to talk about today. Now, I also want to get you started getting that $250 a month in passive income. I want to see you get that property. Get my free real estate investing course. Text the word rental to 33777. RENTAL to 33777, and I will get you, and it literally comes to me, that text, I should probably automate that or something, but it literally comes to me, and I actually send you my free real estate investing course. Download the course. It'll show you how to get started, how to find properties, how to fund, get money for the properties, how to manage it well, how to quit your job with it. Everything like that is inside there. So text the word rental to 33777. Now let's jump into today's show where we interview Damian Lupo, and he's going to show us about the qualified retirement accounts and how we can actually use these instead of solo 401ks and self-directed IRAs to help our future without working a JOB, that just over broke job. All right, guys, let's do this. Damian Lupo, thank you so much for being here on the show with us today.
Man, Dustin, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are an expert in retirement plans. I'm going to be straightforward and honest. I invest in real estate and rental properties, and I know you have a lot of experience in real estate, which is fantastic, so we can definitely learn a lot there as well. But I literally cashed out my 401k, my IRA. I cashed out everything because I make so much more money in real estate. But not everybody's like that. Not everybody has that risk tolerance. Some people want to have it for their future, and they don't want to get the penalties and all that sort of stuff, which is great. And so that's why I want to bring on an awesome expert like yourself, showing us that we can actually utilize our retirement plans to buy real estate. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in all this retirement stuff.
Man, I've got like a world record in the most dumb things that one person can do in a decade. Like, I think that's what my title should be on anything. World's dumbest failure. Like, he just can't stop making mistakes. It's also like a badge of honor because over the process of doing real estate, that's how I started real estate investing. I built up this giant portfolio. I thought it was giant. It's not super big, but it was 20 million bucks. And I thought I was pretty important, 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And over in 2008, that 20 million turned into negative 5 million. So it was a humbling experience. And then I had to spend a couple of years figuring out what was up and what was down. And then I kind of shifted. So my background was real estate, but I didn't understand what you're doing, which is way smarter, which is buying stuff, holding it, not just harvesting all the equity out of it and then setting yourself up for a collapse. But I was basically just harvesting things, having a good old time, being the world's biggest hedonist. And it doesn't end well when you do that. Like, you've got to have a different plan that's not that one. Ultimately, that led to me reevaluating things, and I started looking more into the future. Whereas back in the 2000s, it was my 20s and I was having a good time, had my Ferrari, and it was very, very now. Unfortunately, later shows up. It's a matter of time. And I started watching people like my parents who retired, and they played by the rules with the retirement accounts, and they were broke. And I thought, this sucks. And why is that? Why is that happening? Because people's money was sitting inside of a Wall Street roller coaster, and it was being feed to death. And ultimately, the real return was 2, 3, 4%. You're never going to grow rich on that. You're going to grow old, and you're going to be pissed off and sad and scared. So I started asking, okay, what's a better option here? And what it turned into was the EQRP, which is a way to control your money, not be set up for getting screwed over by a lawsuit, being able to do things other than stocks and bonds, being able to do real estate. And I'm going to kind of blow your mind, because there's some reasons that you would want to use this for real estate. And most people, like my friend Tom Wheelwright, who wrote the Tax-Free Wealth, the Rich Dad Advisor, one time asked me over coffee, why would anybody want to buy real estate in an IRA? And I said, they wouldn't. And he said, well, I don't understand. Like, what are you doing? I said, I'm suggesting people look at using a retirement account, part of a different part of the system, the EQRP, and making sure that they buy with their Roth portion of that so that they paid no taxes forever. And he goes, oh, that's the only reason. That's the only way it really makes sense, because the idea, Dustin, is to get your tax rate down to zero permanently. The problem with real estate is that the Congress changes. And when Congress changes every couple of years, eventually they go socialist. That's where we're heading. So are they going to have the same real estate rules? Absolutely not. They're going to change. The sunset provision in the Tax Reform Act that happened, that allowed everybody to do all this bonus depreciation, is going away in a few years. What does that mean to you? It means the real estate you had, the way it's taxed is going to change. And if you have a Roth account, you're going to be at zero permanently. So why would you want to risk getting taxed up the butt down the road if you could go to zero forever? That's why you use the proper retirement account. And it's not an IRA, it's a Roth EQRP.
Then EQRP. So what does that acronym spell out?
So EQRP is an enhanced qualified retirement plan. Point blank, let's just get cut to the chase. It is not a solo 401k. His name is Mark, and he likes to blog about this. And let me just tell you, Mark, if you ever want to talk about this, man to man, let me just tell you, it's a totally different animal. It's like calling a pig an elephant. They're not the same thing. They both have 4 legs, but it's not the same animal. So, and they might even be at the same zoo or the same farm. Not the same thing. An EQRP allows you to invest in real estate. It gives you control. It has liability protection. It allows you to have employees. One of the things, Dustin, that people don't even know right now, the laws changed 6 months ago. You cannot have a solo 401k or a solo K or anything cute little name you want to call it, and have even a part-time employee 10 hours a week. It blows up the plan. People that, if you have a solo 401k right now, you're going to have to either shut it down or convert it to an IRA. If you've got a part-time employee, what does that mean? If you got real estate, you're about to get taxed inside that IRA, or that, because I mean, people have the most ridiculous information because Google is confusing us. And that's the problem I have. And that's what we're trying to fix right here.
Yeah, that's great. And bringing as much information in so that we can figure out what's the best course of action. I know I talked to my accountant, and I think it was probably this year, like right around this January of this year, he was saying something about doing something like that. And I told him, well, no, I don't invest in retirement accounts. I want my money now because I get passive income. He said, well, you really want to look into it as you get bigger. If you keep growing, you might not need that passive income right now. Put it in the EQRP or something like that. He said something, it was completely different than solo 401k or the self-directed IRA. Like, he literally was not that. It was something completely different, which I believe it's exactly what we're talking about, which is great to have you on. So now there is so many people that are probably like, man, I've heard into this, like you said, you do a Google search or you search anywhere online, and all you see are self-directed IRAs or solo 401ks. That's what you do if you're going to invest in real estate with your 401k, which you can use this. It's a checkbook account is what they try to tell you. Like, this is exactly what you do. Now, let's talk about, because you gave us so many great things that are like blowing minds right now. I know my mind's blown because like, wow, I definitely want to have so much more protection than not. And so if anything can protect me more, I absolutely want that. Protect all my properties, protect my family's livelihood, all that sort of stuff. We want to do that. Okay. So with the EQRP, we already know that it's different. We don't need to keep going down the route of it being different. What for from this point forward, as a real estate investor, how do we utilize an EQRP to buy and hold rental properties? And how does that play out in the future?
So it's a great question. One thing that's really important to remember as a real estate investor, you've got a target on your back because you're one of those rich real estate barons, and people are going to come after you. We're in a time now where if you've got money or if people think you have money, they're either going to break your windows or they're going to sue you. Look at every bus in America, every bus that's in a city. What do they all have? Injury attorneys. You've been injured. Oh, the person has money. They have real estate. Great. Let's go after them. And unfortunately, when you're cheap and you go, well, I don't want to spend the money on the right structures, you're a target. It's a gaping hole. It's like, hey, my door's open. Come rob from me. It's called a lawsuit. So, I mean, that's something that is really important. And fortunately or unfortunately, I've been in lawsuits having real estate, had evictions, had people sue. I've sued them. Like, this is part of business. It's America. It's just kind of what we do here. So you get used to that and you go, okay, well, let me tell you something right now. If you've got entities and they're not in the right state, WikiCorp, go to WikiCorp and look at everything. Everybody can see all your stuff. I looked at my stuff and I went, oh my God, all my stuff's visible, except the stuff that's in the right states. And if it's in the right state, we talked about Wyoming, for example, and part of an EQRP is built in Wyoming. Why? Because it's private. Nobody can figure out what you have or where you are, even if you exist, because your name's not on anything. Why would you do that? Because you don't want to say, hey, come rob me. And that's what you say if you actually have entities and they're in the wrong place. So,
And not just rob me, but rob me, and this is everything that I actually own. So you can go after everything.
yeah, there's no privacy, and unfortunately, a lot of people have been trained. A lot of the 20 somethings have been trained that privacy doesn't matter. They share everything. Like, what color is my poop? Okay, let me post it on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or whatever. I mean, the problem
Exactly.
is you get used to giving up your liberty, and I say that's BS. I say that really it's your privacy. It's up to you, and that's a big shift. Anything else that's out there, whether it's IRAs or solo 401ks, don't have that protection. You're literally naked, running in the wind, saying, "Please come sue me."
So to touch on that, I think, yeah, Damien, you and I, we're almost like kindred brothers because everything you're saying, I'm like, man, I see right eye to eye with you. Now, if we are finding the right state, I personally teach all of my students in the Ultimate Real Estate Investing System, all my coaching, to really to go to Wyoming. But we're not going to go down the route of like which and where and all that sort of stuff. But let's say we pick the right state and we go to the right state that actually is going to protect us and everything, and then we can't just set up our own EQRP. We have to actually have somebody that help us out. And I would be so I want to talk about that. But before I do want to say that I personally don't mind paying extra money to get things done right the first time. I was always taught by my dad growing up, do things right the first time. That's going to be the right thing for future. And so if you're going to pay a little extra money as opposed to a company that's like, hey, this is really, really cheap or almost free, and we're going to take care of it. And they actually don't. It's actually detrimental. It's actually making it worse. It could be bad down the line. I'd rather pay extra and make sure it's done right. So, talk to us about what about the EQRP, and can we set it up ourselves? Do we need somebody like you? How do we go about starting one?
The answer is yes. You can absolutely set it up yourself. It usually costs about $25,000 to $30,000. You have an attorney create custom docs. They're approved by the IRS, and you're good. Takes you 3 to 6 months if you have a good attorney. So that is an option. That's one of the dumbest things that you could do. There's no particular reason to do it. It's akin to saying, okay, I need a brick. So instead of going to Home Depot, I'm going to build a brick factory, learn how to do this, put that in place so that I can have a brick. Why would you do that? That's dumb. So the other option is you have somebody that knows what they're doing it. Unfortunately, in the space of retirement accounts, there's a lot of people that are like Me Too's, and not the Me Too movement. I'm talking about Me Too, I'm going to do retirements. And then they go out there and say, look, it's so easy. And you just come to us and we're cheap and it won't cost that much. Or they say it's free. Like, Dustin, you can get a free solo 401k or a free IRA. The cheapest cost is free and you get what you pay for. We are not even
Well,
close. I mean, we're probably one of the most expensive on purpose. You do get what you pay for. And so the question is, what do you want? Do you want something sustainable, or do you want a financial house built on quicksand? That's what free means.
and absolutely, completely agree. And same thing with like Google or anything that's free. If it's free to you, you are the product. Like you
That's
are
it.
the one being sold. And so that's something that you really want to watch out for. So I'm totally fine with paying extra money. In fact, I have my lawyers and my accountants that I pay really well to make sure I'm definitely taken care of. Like I rely on them. They're the experts. And so, okay, I absolutely agree. If you were to actually set all this up yourself, it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time. I personally like to like when I build my real estate investing business in every single city that I invest all over the country, I get the experts in that area and pay them well. Actually, I take that back. I don't pay them. I don't pay my taxes. I don't pay my insurance. I don't pay my property manager, rehab, or any of that stuff. My tenants pay those. So I just add up all my expenses. My tenants pay that off, and I make passive income. But they still get paid. And so we want to make sure we hire the right people. Okay, so if we wanted to not go spend $20,000, so much time and effort doing all this stuff, what is it that you provide at your company, and how does that help us as real estate investors in buy and hold rental properties?
So what we provide is execution intelligence. This is all we do. We've been doing it for years. We have a team that does this one thing and we do it really well. I wrote the book on the QRP. So there's a lot of smart people
Wait,
out
wait,
there that know a
literally,
lot of
not figuratively. You literally wrote the book?
No, it's literally, if you look up
That's
qrpbook.com, you'll see
awesome.
my book, or it's on Amazon. So when
Yes.
you're asking, well, what should I read? Google or the guy that wrote the book that studied this and made it his life's work the last 10 years? I'm pretty sure the answer is obvious. So, the question is, do you want to have somebody that's kind of like the JV team, or do you want the varsity team? If you want the varsity team, who do you think is going to win the state championship? It's not the JV team, it's the varsity team. So that's what we are. We're the varsity team. There's a lot of people that are the JV, and they're cheaper for junk. And
Well,
that's really
let
what
me
it
pause.
is.
Let me pause you. So outside of this conversation, Damien's already talked to me about another company that we're not going to name the company, but another company that's really, really inexpensive. In fact, I mean they're around all over the place. When he's saying JV, it's basically they, I would say allegedly because I don't want to get sued or anything, but took some intellectual property and created something that's their own, but it's taken from him. So, anyways, he was the one that actually created everything and figured everything out and put everything together, and then other people have kind of siphoned that off. And so you have the person that actually designed it and developed it, as opposed to the ones that just copying it, mimicking it.
So I mean, ultimately, you have to decide what do you want. There's a lot of knockoffs, so that's what we're talking about. There's a lot of knockoffs out there. Here's a great example. If you go to Amazon and you say, "Cool, I want an Apple adapter for my Mac or my iPhone," you order it. You go, "What's the cheapest one?" It's $7. Apple charges $30 or $40. Guess what happens? You get the $7 one and your house catches on fire. Literally, I've had fire start because I bought crap on Amazon that wasn't
Yep.
authentic. It's the same thing. When you buy the junk, you buy these cute little companies in this space and you get an app that's a subscription agreement. You get the junk that's not protecting you and it won't actually adapt to your situation. Why would you do that? It's interesting, Dustin, because one of my core values is self-responsibility. It's also abundance. So when I'm dealing with people or working with people and they go, well, this thing is cheaper. Why should I go with you? I go, if you're wanting the cheapest, I am not the right thing. Our company is not the right fit. We have an accounting firm that we use, we recommend. And it's always funny because yesterday, somebody said, I was afraid to ask them what they charge because if I ask them what they charge, they probably are going to tell me I shouldn't work with them because it's one of the top accounting firms. And here's what happens. You work with them and they are going to save you twice as much as they charge you. Who cares what they charge? That's the same thing. If I can set you up, protect you, and help you make money so you're financially free, why do you care if it's 5,000 or 50,000? What difference does it make? And it's not 5,000 or 50,000, but why do you care? It's like somebody saying, well, I'm doing this investment with you, but I think your 1% or your 2% fee is too much, even though I'm going to make 15 or 20% of my money. You're asking the wrong question. What's in it for you? Keep asking yourself, what's in it for you? Here, what's in it for you? Professional people that know what they're doing, that are going to keep you protected in compliance, get you in the right thing that's going to last a lifetime.
So how do we then get it set up? We go through. We call you up, Damien, and said you get everything going. There's obviously a whole bunch we got to talk about. We're not going to talk about here, but like you would have to get to set up, which is fine. Let's say you get everything set up. And then you're saying, now I want to buy a rental property. There's a specific property in another state, completely far away from me. That's what we do at Master Passive Income. We teach how to invest out of state, how to just buy and get passive income which would then go into your retirement, because if it's in the retirement account, it goes into your retirement, which is great. What is the steps, or what do we do as a real estate investor utilizing EQRP to buy a buy and hold property?
So it's as simple as writing a check or wiring the funds, just like you do with anything else. There's no difference to it. So you find a property in Indianapolis or Memphis or wherever you're looking, and you say, okay, I want that. Your retirement account buys it through one of the entities that's inside the retirement account. So what you typically do is you call us and say, here's what I'm doing. I want to make sure this is in compliance. And we go, this, and this is what you do. And you go, great. And you write a check. It's the difference between that and say like an IRA is the IRA is like, well, we're going to have to look at your stuff. It might take us 3 weeks, and then we'll tell you here are all the roadblocks, and by then you've lost your deal. So that's one of the problems. The other thing is you're going to get perspective. We can actually talk about the deals and ask questions, asking questions about your deal. I've been a professional investor for 2 decades. So if I see a deal, I can ask you some questions to help protect you. The team is here to protect you, to grow your stuff. It's protecting you from maybe your ignorance. I mean, we all start off ignorant. That's just how it starts. And when you have people that are balder and grayer, they tend to have some experience that is really useful. And that's one of the things you get is that perspective.
So every bit of the money that is inside the EQRP, we can utilize for investing in real estate, number one. But number two, does all the money have to go back into the account, or can I spend any of that money that property makes me?
So the money goes back because the owner of the asset is the retirement account. And here's one of the interesting things. So I'm a big fan of the Roth. It's after tax money. And there's a way to get your money into a retirement account after tax and not pay taxes on it ever. Not when you put it in, not when it comes out. So give you an example. Let's say you put 50,000 bucks in. Normally people put 50,000 into a 401k. They get a tax deduction. Well, down the road, you're going to get killed with taxes when you pull the money out. So my suggestion is to look at putting the money in, converting it to Roth. I'll show you how to do it tax-free. So you convert it to Roth. Now it's Roth and it's growing tax-free forever. Here's the other thing. You can take that $50,000 out that you've converted anytime you want at any age. No taxes, no penalties. Huge, huge opportunity if you pile in $250,000, $500,000 over the next 5 or 10 years, and then you're letting it grow. You can just pull it back out, do whatever you want with it, and let the gains run tax-free. The strategies here are so good, and yet people go, oh, 401ks are terrible, or IRAs are terrible, or whatever. And I'm like, there's more to it than that. Like, stop reading Money Magazine. I mean, truly, it's amazing.
I would completely agree to stop reading Money Magazine. My dad gets Money Magazine and he reads it all the time. He's like, "Hey, look what I'm doing." I'm like, "Dad, that's great, but I'm reading this article. This article's horrible. Like, my own personal experience is saying this article's bad." Anyways, so we'll go off of that. Okay, so the money goes back into the account, and then I love the idea of having a Roth completely as well. And so that was really interesting, though. You can pull the money out anytime without having any penalties or just taxes.
So you can pull the money out. Any Roth money you put in or any Roth money you convert can be pulled out tax-free, penalty-free at any age, at any point, for any reason. Didn't know that, did you?
No, I didn't know that.
Nobody knows that. Like it's like a big mystery, and there's all this confusion around 5-year rules and things. And people are like, well, wait, I have to wait 5 years or 59 and a half. And no, you don't. And so you could build up $2 million in there. And you say it's all deferred, and we say, great, let's convert it. We convert it. I can show you how to do conversion tax-free. Goes into Roth, your age 45, 50, and then pull that $2 million out the next day tax-free. Tax-free. I'm telling you, this is amazing. This is why you need a team, because there's too much. The tax code's like 100,000 pages. I haven't even read it. I just read the really, really relevant stuff, and then I'm able to use that to guide our people. How much is that worth to have that type of expertise on your team? I mean, it's freaking priceless.
Priceless. Absolute priceless. Now, hold on. I got to say what I heard, and correct me if I heard it wrong. But let's say you had a regular IRA go to you and say, I want to convert it into an Roth IRA. And then you would show us how to convert it tax-free, penalty-free, and then we can pull it right back out.
Did
I hear that right?
Tax-free. Yep.
Oh my goodness.
There's a way to do that.
Well, deal. Okay, done. Sign me up. That's awesome. Because I get so many students that I coach on how to invest in real estate, and they're wanting to utilize their 401k, their IRA, and they're like, well, you know what? I want the money now, meaning I want to utilize the money in my IRA to buy to buy a property, take it out of my retirement to buy a property, and then have that passive income. Because I'd like to quit my job now, not wait until I'm 60. But I want to use that money now. So it's an asset that I or my company owns, not the retirement account actually owns. And then I get that passive income, which helps me to not have to work a job. And so if you can show us how to do that, I mean, that is literally priceless. So I'm glad that I clarified that, because it was like, wait, can you speak into my good ear? Because I just,
It,
that sounds awesome.
Tell you what, it gets better because of what Congress did in March. Most people are like, oh, the CARES Act, I get $1,200. It actually gets better because they went and started monkeying with the retirement system. So one of the things that happened is right now you're able to get up to $200,000 out of a 401k or a thrift savings plan if you happen to work for the government. And there's like millions of y'all, probably many of you watching, listening. If you have a thrift savings plan or a 401k at many companies, there are two provisions that changed. One, you can take a disbursement, which is up to $100,000 or all of your money, take $100,000, and you can either use it for whatever you want and then pay taxes over 3 years, or you can move that 100,000 into a self-directed account and start doing real estate, because right now you're stuck in mutual funds. This is a way to get $100,000 out today. The other one is a $100,000 loan. Used to be 50 and only for 401ks and thrift savings plans, so not IRAs. Right now, you can borrow up to 100,000, no payments for a year, and then you pay it back over 5 years. So technically, let me tell you, if you go out there and you're doing the work and you're a part of your program and you're getting coached by the right people, you take 200,000, I can help you retire in a year. No problem. No problem. It's enough money. You don't need $2.7 million like all these idiot financial advisors keep telling people you got to save for 40 years. No, you don't. $200,000 is enough to go out there and make it happen, unless you have a Kim Kardashian lifestyle or something. You need to have a lot of bling. Realistically, you are free if you know the right people doing the right things.
That's absolutely right. And so if anybody, well, I have coaching students that come to me and say, I have $100,000 or I have $200,000 or even just $10,000, I'll show you how to make money from that money. And when people come to me and say, hey, I have $200,000, how much money do you think I can get in passive income if we do your system? I say, at minimum, we should be able to at least get $2,500 in passive income from the properties that we're going to buy from these. If we do it right, there's a lot of ways to do it wrong. We got to figure out how to do it right. Okay, so if we are let's just clarify, if we are doing a rental property business, it seems like to me that we buy it, we first fund the account. Obviously, there's money in it. It has to have money in it first. Then we find a property we want to buy. The title company says, okay, now wire the money. Then we just talk to you or somebody around, like the company, wire that money directly. And then we have any expenses come out of that account as well, because that is the retirement account that owns it. And then any expenses comes out and it pays all the expenses. And then any money that comes back to us in our passive income goes back into the retirement account. And it just sounds like that's a little bit of work. Not saying it's necessarily hard. Is that right? And is it a way to make it a little more automated so it's not as manual for us?
Well, it's like any other business. If you invest in a piece of property and you have to write checks, it's just a different account that you're writing checks from. It's just a different account that money's coming back to. Keep in mind, it's a different checking account. It's not like you have to go through title companies for everything. The only time you go through a title company is maybe buying the property or selling it, but all your normal stuff is just the same. You can automate it with ACH payments or whatever you're doing, debit cards. Like, it's all the same. There's no extra anything that you're doing. There really isn't anything extra. It's just all the front end when we build everything and set it up. And then it's like, here are the keys to your castle and your Ferrari. Just don't be stupid like I was with my Ferrari.
Well, I mean, that's great, because as I build my business, I have a bunch of LLCs. I have a bunch of different companies and a bunch of different bank accounts, because they're all siloed, because I don't want people to go after everything that I have. And so they're all siloed out. And you're right. It's just another bank account. It's just another way that money goes in to a certain bank account and it comes out of that bank account. So that is awesome. Okay. So what can we be missing if we went with a solo 401k or an IRA, or what are the problems with that in a brief nutshell, as opposed to going with EQRP?
The biggest one that most people do is they set up an IRA and they invest with the IRA. The biggest problem with that is that if you're investing in turnkey real estate or syndications where there's debt, there's something called UBIT tax. And unfortunately, custodians don't tell you what the consequences are. They say we're not accountants. When you invest in real estate that has debt, you can pay up to 37% tax on your profits. So imagine, like, here's an example, a typical thing. Somebody invests $50,000 in a deal, and the deal has 70% leverage. So this is very common, like in an apartment or something, you put your 50,000 in with a bunch of other people, your 50 doubles, turns into $100,000. Very, very common when that happens for you to have to write a $10,000 to $12,000 check for UBIT because you used an IRA. Dumb, but nobody told you. Well, now they're telling you. Now I'm telling you. The alternative is you use an EQRP. you're exempt from it. You're exempt from that tax. It's part of the tax code because developers were using lobbyists years ago, and they had an exemption written into the code. So you have the ability to pay zero. What do you do if you're already invested with an IRA? You move the asset into an EQRP. It's called a rollover. No tax, no penalty, and now no taxes with UBIT. That's the transition to go over. These ideas of solo 401ks and things exempt from UBIT. The problem is you're going to blow up your plan, or you're going to get sued, and you're going to get somebody to punch right through it because you're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong state. You're not in Wyoming. There's all sorts of ways to be cheap, and you're going to pay the price later. You're going to pay the price one way or the other. The later price is 10 times more expensive. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. So before we got on the show, we were talking about where we incorporate our businesses, or where you do with the EQRP. And for, I don't know, like 10 years, I've been telling all my students, do Wyoming. And to hear you come on and say the right place is Wyoming, I'm like, yes, I'm glad. Like we see eye to eye, because everything, all the research, all the lawyers I've talked to, everything about it, Wyoming is great. As well as if you set up LLCs, if you set up an EQRP and you do it right, you're really going to be well protected. I mean, for anybody just listening to this, if you have any money in a 401k or an IRA, this sounds like a fantastic option. And on top of that, if you get to the place, and let me ask you this, Damon, because right now I'm at the place where I have plenty of properties. I'm blessed with plenty of money. And I'm thinking, you know what, maybe even though I'm not a big fan of retirement accounts just in general, just because it's like, I want the money now. But thinking of having more potential benefits for not paying taxes. Like I just, as best I can, I don't try to not pay taxes and break the law. No, I go with the law as long as, or I go with the law. And if there's any way to get around with whatever, provisions they put in there, or like even just depreciation is one brilliant thing. I just love depreciation, but utilizing any of the tax law to pay less in taxes. So as an investor, as you grow, get more properties, and you have more passive income coming in, it sounds like this is a great option just to offset future taxes as well. Is that correct?
It is, and there's a difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance. What you're talking about is tax avoidance. What a lot of idiots say is, if I do it cash under the table, then I don't have to pay tax. That's called tax evasion. You go to jail. You get like
You
a
sure
big
do.
800-pound gorilla boyfriend, which you don't really want. So
Yep.
this is what happens. So the question is, which one do you want to do? Do you want to not pay taxes? The tax code is set up as a series of incentives. It's set up to direct us to do certain things. What I can tell you is that we're going to switch in the other direction, where taxes are going to get worse. And when they get worse, people that say, well, everything is good. Yeah, they're good because you've got a real estate developer president that was able to push through things that made it really good. Is that going to stick? Absolutely not. They're 100% guaranteed those rules are changing. Taxes are going to go up. Depreciation is going away in its current form. And so what do we do about that? It doesn't mean it's going to disappear. It means it's going to change, because you're going to have a very liberal socialist bent that's going to say, we need to give more money to the people, and real estate investors are just rich, greedy bastards, which isn't true, but that's their slant, because they're pandering to a base of people that they want to vote for them. They want free money. It's called Happy Dependence Day. That's what we're about to enter right now in this 4th of July. That's reality. So the reason that we don't like retirement accounts in general, and a lot of people, smart people, say I hate them, because they were typically set up to where your money was trapped inside mutual funds forever. And you're like, well, why would I want that? Don't use it that way. I don't condone doing that. I think that that's a stupid plan. And when people say, well, I'm getting a matching thing from my employer, I go, why? You're getting a matching into mutual funds, which are a big bubble. That's stupid. And they go, well, but it's about financial literacy. And then you start switching. Use the Roth. It's there. It's going to go away. You guys, just hear me say this. The Roth is going to go away. It's a tax revenue source for Congress. Eventually, they're going to pull it. They'll pull the plug. Most likely, everybody that has one will be grandfathered, just like stretch IRAs died December 31st, 2019. Lifetime IRAs that were inherited, they got grandfathered. So if you inherited one before that date, you get to use and spend it forever, tax-free. That's pretty cool. After that, you got 10 years. I'm just telling you that laws will change. And so whatever might be a good idea is a really good idea to do sooner than later, because Congress is always effing everything up.
They sure are. No, I completely agree. And any law is basically not permanent, because just because
Right.
any time a new Congress or a new president or just anybody comes in, it can always change, because that's just the way our system's set up. Good or bad, it's just the way it is. And so usually, and I say usually, like you said, they grandfather in what has been done in the past, as opposed to just say, you're completely bad now because you did it this way, we're going to penalize you. No, they usually say, well, we're going to grandfather you. And so if we did that, if we just started one Roth account, one account with you that's an EQRP, that's a Roth account, that's basically we're locking in the ability to keep putting money into it, correct? Like we don't have to keep creating Roth after Roth after Roth.
No, it's exactly right. You're grandfathering your money as Roth money. The laws could change, and they could say we're no longer you can no longer contribute money to Roth. There's a guy named Ron Wyden who was actually a congressman when I lived in Oregon. He's now a senator there, and he wanted to cap retirement accounts at $5 million. He wanted to say, nope, that's plenty. So it's these elitists, these gazillionaires and billionaires that want to just keep everybody else stuck in a certain like fiefdom and or a certain caste, if you will. And so the question is, what do you want to do? Do you want to bet that maybe it'll still work, or do you just want to bet and say, forget it, it's not worth it? Your money is likely to stay Roth. Most of the economic rules tend to be stuck. It's the other stuff. It's like gun control laws happen and they go retroactive. So those are the type of things that generally don't get grandfathered, but financial systems oftentimes do get grandfathered. I don't know why. There is no downside to having Roth money and then just keeping it there. You don't even have to contribute more than, maybe a year, maybe 5,000. Super smart to have these different pots because we don't know how the rules are going to change. And if you're grandfathered in, you at least have the pot in that's live.
I mean, you got me sold. I'm like, man, I just need to create one now. It'll be worthwhile in the future. And then if I need to park my money in there, it's already taxed. It's literally already been taxed before because it's our government's already taken their money out. It's just my money. Park it inside there and also use it to buy real estate. So I think it's great. Okay, so you give us so much great insight. There's so many great things. Is there anything else we might have missed out that we should know before we sign off?
Yeah, if this is something that you're like, this is interesting, I don't even know if I could do this. Let me tell you, if you're listening right now, you're eligible. The eligibility around doing these things is it's another source of confusion. The government says, and the IRS code is very simple. It says you have to have a business. Doesn't say that you have to have a $40 million business. So what is an eBay store? What is a lemonade stand? If you're managing property, do property managers get paid? Okay, so all of these things are businesses. Well, I'm a W-2. I'm a doctor. Awesome. Guess what? You can have a second business. It's called a hustle. Listen to Grant Cardone. He talks about it all the time. So anybody that wants to do this, here's one of the cool things that most people don't realize. You can set this up for a parent or a grandparent. And guess what happens when they pass away? You can inherit these things. Why do you do that? Because I think families should keep their money. I don't think this redistribution of wealth makes any sense. It actually makes me mad. And it's by elitists that think we need to make it fair. Make it fair. Get the government out of the damn way. And so you can set these things up. And most families, if you have rational conversations, are very happy to see their family thrive and not be dependent on the government. So anybody that wants to set this up, I don't care if you have a company with 20 employees or no company at all, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a butcher, a candlestick maker, I don't give a crap. If you want to do something, you can do it. The question is, will you?
I definitely need to. And gave me before because I you threw in so something I definitely want to touch on. So if I set one up, because my dad, he has a little bit of money and he doesn't live very wealthy at all. Like he just has his own house he's lived in for 30 years and he just has a little bit extra money. He's just living off of that and Social Security, that little bit that he gets. And I was like, you know what? We need to protect that money because right now he's literally letting it ride in the stock market. I'm like, Dad, if it drops, and that's the time you need to pull it out, or the government does something stupid and it may whatever, like as we're seeing that right now with COVID, with market literally tanking. It's like if you have to take it out now, that's the worst time to take it. Anyways, so what you just said is I can get my dad and help him to set one up, and then that would eventually protect the money, and then eventually come to his kids, and then could that go down to my kids, or how does that work out for generational wealth?
Yeah, so it's allowed to be inherited one time. Once it's inherited, it's right now because the law's changed, you've got to do something with it over 10 years. So you have 10 years after you inherit it to continue growing it, to spend it. And it's like, especially when it's Roth money, just imagine that continues to grow. It's yet another pool of money that may or may not get attacked by the IRS with Congress intervening. So the point here is that you're shifting things around. Justice Learned Hand is a Supreme Court justice that made a comment years ago, and he said there is no moral obligation or legal obligation to pay more taxes than you're required to because of the tax code. So people that say, "Well, I think you should pay more taxes," it's like, why? Well, because you think that what are you Robin Hood? Like, give me a break. That's not
Well,
fair. It's not
I'll
legitimate.
definitely have to jump in there too and say that the people that want you to pay more taxes will not themselves pay more taxes. They only want other people to pay more taxes. So I'm just like, I'm much more libertarian. Like, leave me alone. I'll leave YOLO. Let's just you take care of yourself. I'll take care of myself. And so absolutely right. And so I completely agree. So if we can only pass it down one time, so if I set one up for my dad and he has everything like it's literally mutual funds, a bunch of different mutual fund accounts, we can then, like you said, put into an account, convert it over to Roth, and then he can utilize it to invest, and then it'll pass down one time. Then what would I do for my kids? Like, do I set one up for me that go, like, how does that work out?
Yeah, so you set one up for you set one up for dad, you set one up for your kids, and then it gets to be inherited one time. Here's the other thing, Dustin. You can set one up for your kids, pay your kids, you get a $12,200 deduction right off the top of your taxes, and they get income that's not taxed at all. No Social Security, no income tax. First 12,200 is tax free. And if it's structured correctly, we help with this too. If it's structured correctly, there's no tax going in and they can put it into a Roth account. So literally your kids have $12,200 in a Roth EQRP. You got a $12,200 deduction. This $12,200 has never been taxed, never will be taxed. That 12,200 can be pulled out at any point for any reason. So that money is growing. All those gains get to grow tax-free for life. And meanwhile, you've got this 12,200 every year for every kid that continues to go in, and you could pull it out down the road for whatever, house, college, whatever, a rental property that they want to do. So there's some really cool strategies. And just think about that. If you're making $100,000 a year and there's an extra, you make $112,000 a year, you're going to pay about 20% tax on that $12,200. So if you say, okay, well, I'm going to push it into my kids, I'm still going to control that money. That's a $2,400 tax reduction, $2,400 every time you do it. Why would you not do this? Like, unless you just hate your money, this is a really good idea.
I love it. Okay, I'm definitely sold. So there's definitely so much more that we could absolutely talk on, but we definitely have touched on some good enough information so that people should reach out to you. So, Damien, how would they reach out to you? How would they even get started? How would they be able to find you? Because people are definitely going to want to do this. I know I am absolutely going to be doing it. So, how would they be able to get a hold of you?
Grab your phone. If you're watching this on your computer, your phone is like 5 inches away from the computer, probably. Whatever you're doing, just grab your phone and text the word EQRP to 72,000. When you send EQRP to 72,000, you're going to get a summation. It's a report. It's a 15-page report. It has all the basics. It includes the stuff with the CARES Act from March of 2020. And then if you say, okay, I want more, great. Book a call with us. Text me and say, hey, can you FedEx me a book? And I'll send you the whole QRP book. Get the information from the source. But do something. Information is not power unless you do something. So your next doing something is just texting EQRP to 72,000 and get the ball rolling, and we'll see what we can do.
That's great. Absolutely. And for everybody watching, we'll put in the show notes to make sure you have that as well. What's the website, your website that people can also look for you there?
EQRP.co. It's the EQRP company. .co
Very cool.
For company. Yep.
Oh, very cool. Well, man, Damien, so much great information. I hope people realize that there's so many more options out there. And I know that for myself, I'm like, I never really thought that it would be a good idea to actually go with a solo 401k or self-directed IRA. It just wasn't for me. But this is so much more because I see all the benefits. So thank you very much, Damon. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, Dustin. Happy to be here. Happy to come back. Happy to help anybody that wants help. If you want it, I'm with you.
Now, honestly, guys, I am super excited to actually have had this interview because thinking of how awesome it would be to utilize this 401k and IRA, instead of doing that, putting into an EQRP where you can actually save your money even more so on taxes, put into a Roth one. I mean, it's so great. I'm not the expert. And in the description, I have a link for you to go to him. It's an affiliate link. It's not going to cost you any money, but it will absolutely help you to work with him, show them that you came from me, which would help me out, which would be great. So I really appreciate you guys. Now, again, text that word rental to 33777. Rental to 3377. I will get you my free real estate investing course. So you guys are awesome. I hope you got a lot out of the show. If you did, please share this with just one person. Share it with one person so that they can see how amazing it is to quit your job by investing in real estate rental properties so you never have to work that just over broke job again. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.